Warm greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thank you so much for joining me. This is live number 2. The said commentary I'm bringing to you today will be pertaining to Gloria Williams, mommy Dearest, out of Houston, Texas. Yes, amen. The judge has hiked her bond to $1.5 million. And I'm bringing you the said information pertaining to the 3 bums accused of killing Amaud Aubry in the state of Georgia and Mr. Rittenhouse. I have not brought you all the information pertaining to these 2 trials. As I said, I've been just a bit distracted lately, but I'm going to go ahead and bring you the commentary to all said 3 stories. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. And I need to put 0.5 on that title. Sorry about that. I was rushing putting up my title. I will bring it back here in just a second when I upload the content. CNN is the source. Judge says there appears to be intentional discrimination in Aubry jury selection, but also allows trial to move forward with 1 black juror. Yeah, as if I'm surprised. But of course, this was uploaded on the 4th. I'm going to see if I can play you some commentary pertaining to this said information. CNN is the source if you need a source. Hi, baby. How y'all doing in the chat? Thank you so much. Let's see if I can upload this. It's taking a minute. Thank you all so much for joining me. Yes, today's back-to-back lives because I'm behind on my stories. So forgive me. But I will be bringing you back-to-back lives all day today. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, it won't. I don't know what's happening. Thank you all so much. Got 13 viewing. That's okay. This always happens with these articles. Their content takes a while to play for some reason. Let me see if it'll play. Hold on 1 second. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to get it to play. It won't play. Well, we'll see. Hello, Velez. How you doing, honey? I'll just go ahead and read you the content because it'll take me forever to get all this information out because it's a lot. Enjoy your day too, baby. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thanks for tuning in. I have a lot of information to read to you pertaining to the Aubry case and Rittenhouse, so they'll be a little bit lengthy because I'm bringing you a few sources of each one. As I state, judge says there appears to be intentional discrimination in Aubry jury selection that allows trial to move forward with 1 black juror. After a long and contentious jury selection process in a coastal Georgia county in preparation for the trial for Amaud Aubry's killing. Come on now. A panel of 12 people was chosen Wednesday. This was last week, consisting of 1 black member and 11 white members. The jury was selected after a 2.5-week selection process that ended with prosecutors for the state accusing defense attorneys of disproportionately striking qualified black jurors and basing some of their strikes on race. Judge Timothy Walmsley said the defense appeared to be discriminatory in selecting a jury, but that the case could go forward. So the judge was accusing the defense to be discriminatory in selecting the jury. Wow. Okay. Interesting. This court has found that there appears to be intentional discrimination, Walmsley said Wednesday. The court heard arguments for more than 2 hours about why defense struck the potential jurors before Walmsley ultimately denied the state's motion and ruled there were valid reasons beyond race for why the jurors were dismissed. Okay. I got to think about what I was saying. Okay, so he was basically saying the defense, you didn't want any black jurors on there. Why? Why is that? Yes, because you've got some white people who've killed a black man for no damn reason. That's why. Yeah, I said that. One of the challenges that I think counsel recognized in this case is the racial overtones in the case. This is sort of the continuation of a conversation that I think will continue for a long time with respect to this case, the judge said, but added that in Georgia, all the defense needs to do is provide the legitimate, non-discriminatory, clear, reasonably specific and related reason for why they struck a juror, and he said the defense met the burden. In Glenn County, where the trial is taking place, more than 26% of the 85,000 residents are Black and about 69% are white, according to 2019 data from the U.S. Census Bureau. Of the 16 total jurors selected, including the 4 alternates, 5 are men and 11 are women, according to the pool reporter inside the courtroom. Wanda Cooper Jones, Aubry's mother, said as she left the courthouse Wednesday, she was shocked there was only 1 Black juror. I mean, that was devastating, she said. The jurors must decide whether Gregory McMichael and his son, Travis McMichael, along with their neighbor, William Roddy Bryan Jr., are guilty of malice and felony murder. They have pleaded not guilty. The defendants also face charges of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit false imprisonment. Lee Merritt, an attorney for Aubry's family, wrote on Twitter about the number of Black potential jurors who remain, saying in a post, only one of the 16 potential jurors is African American. Jason Sheffield, an attorney for Travis McMichael, called the selection process exhaustive, but said he was pleased with the outcome and felt the selected jurors would be fair. Yeah, I guess so. We're very pleased that we have been able to select now 16 members of this community, Sheffield said as he exits the courthouse, where this community can now decide the pending issues of this indictment. And we truly believe that we would do so fairly and in keeping with what we all understand justice to be about. Okay, so now we got one Black person on the jury. So now we have to ask ourselves, what are the races of the 4 alternates? Are any of them Black? I'm just asking. Curious. I can ask. The selection process was a long one. Aubry's killing sparked national outrage after a video of his shooting was made public. The 25-year-old Black man was out for a jog in Brunswick on February 23rd, 2020, when he was fatally shot. The McMichaels said they were conducting a citizen's arrest on Aubry, whom they suspected of burglary, and that Travis McMichael shot him with a shotgun in self-defense. Brian, who recorded the video, hit Aubry with his truck after he joined the McMichaels in chasing Aubry. A Georgia Bureau of Investigation agent has testified. It wasn't until the video of the shooting surfaced that the men were arrested. Finding people to sit on the panel that will deliver the verdicts was a challenging and lengthy process that the judge himself seemed to grow frustrated with last month. From the roughly 1,000 people who were summoned as part of the jury selection pool, fewer than half turned up. Very interesting. I guess these people said, hey, I want my life. You're not going to pay me nothing, no way, for sitting on this jury, and I don't want to be a part of this circus that probably will unfold with this case. Because you also have to remember when the information is released, who the jurors are. Here come the news people wanting to know why you chose this said verdict. Always remember that. No official reason was given for the low turnout, but among those who did come, many said they had already formed strong opinions about the case, knew the defense or were scared to sit, pointing to the potential consequences of the outcomes of the case on the Glenn County community. Exactly. I think it would be naive to think there couldn't be real-world repercussions, one woman told attorneys last month in the early days of the selection process. The jury will be impaneled just before opening statements. The judge told jurors to report Friday morning at 9 a.m. Not enough Bubba men, defense attorneys said. Defense attorneys previously expressed concern over not only how many people didn't show, but also who was missing among those who did. It would appear that white males born in the South over 40 years of age without 4-year college degrees, sometimes euphemistically known as Bubba or Joe, six-pack seems to be significantly underrepresented. Defense attorney Kevin Gow, who represents Brian, told the court Friday. Without meaning to be stereotypical in any way, I do think there's a real question in this case whether that demographic is underrepresented in this jury pool, Gow added. And if it is, then we have a problem with that. Well, what you complaining about? So you want some over the 40-year-old men to be on the jury? Because see, you already taking it right there by saying that, defense attorney. Yeah, I'm going to get my commentary midway. You want it you taking it right now by saying that. Because you stereotyping that what? Over the 40 years of age white men are going to think that it's okay for 3 white men to corner a man kidnapping, because that's what it's called in the United States. When you stop a person from going where they need to go, it's called kidnapping. Pulled out a gun and you shot him in cold blood. Wasn't a citizen's arrest. Because the law says in order for me to perform a citizen's arrest, you have to be in the commission of a crime. So running and jogging is not a crime. You have the right to run, walk, skip, hop, ride a bicycle, wherever you see fit in America. So long as you're not on private property, hopping, skipping, riding. Come on with it, Quay. Amen. Now, where was I? I was somewhere. I done got befuddled. My commentary. All right. Sheffield, the attorney for Travis McMichael, brought up demographics again this week, stressing that the low turnout of people during the jury selection process meant the pool didn't fairly reflect the accused in this case, where the accused can't look across the courtroom and see persons that are similarly situated to themselves. Well, see, let me say that for this man who's representing Mr. McMichael, what the hell are you talking about? You can't make a person show up for jury duty, even though they say that's your right to show up as a citizen. But everybody has different circumstances for why they don't want to be a member of a jury. And this is in the bottom of Georgia, probably a poor region of people. They need their damn money. So hell no, they don't want to be no jury on a jury panel because you don't get paid much to be a jury member. And a jury trial can last from 2 weeks to a month to 2 months to 3 months. So you're talking about money coming out of somebody's pocketbook. They've got to pay their bills, take care of their children, their lives. And some people just cannot afford to miss work. And it doesn't mean that they wouldn't want to be on the jury. They may want to be on the jury, but their household is more important. And you can't expect a person to go without paying their bills just to make a couple of dollars on a jury. And I think that needs to be also said. You want to fight for being a jury member, that it's your duty to be a jury member if chosen or if called, let's say if called, someone sends you the summons. So then why don't you pay a compensatory pay if you think it's our duty to be on the jury or go through the process? Then pay a decent wage for being on the jury. Hell, why don't you pay $100 a day? Because that's a poor region, I'm sure, down through those parts in Georgia. Okay, we already know the bottom states usually have, a poor demographic in Georgia. The bottom part of Georgia, it's not as affluent as some of the other cities, counties in the state of Georgia. Poor regions are down through those parts. So you're going to have to pay these people some money to be on the jury panel. And that's anywhere, whether it's Georgia, New York, California, it's all the same. Pay me my damn money. Maybe I'll sit on the jury panel. Now, let me finish. But a jury needs to be representative of only race and gender, not socioeconomic background, says CNN legal analyst Paige Pate. There usually tends to be diversity of economic backgrounds among those who are summoned, Pate said. Participation in the jury pool is important, but only so much to establish diversity of race and perhaps gender, but not Bubba background, whatever that may be, Pate said. Okay, Pate, you know what he meant. I've represented doctors who have gone on trial. Now, was my jury made up of a bunch of doctors? Of course not. Exactly. So for these people to be saying this as defense attorneys, you're throwing shade to your own stupid ass clients. You're basically saying we live in a demographic that's full of white folks, country ass white people. So we want some country white folk on the jury. Well, like this lady said, you pick people who you think will best serve the jury itself and to both sides, that they can sit and listen to the information equally and make a sound decision pertaining to the information, whether it's a stockbroker, an engineer, a doctor, the garbage man, somebody that works at Wendy's, somebody that cleans up office buildings. It's all the same. People are people. But to even make a comment like that, you want some bubbles on the jury, is disrespectful to country white folks. And it's disrespectful to the dead, and it's disrespectful to the dead's family and friends in the community. Because basically what you're saying is, we're country white people, we want country white people on the jury. That's so disrespectful. But see, this just goes to show you the mentality. You got the lawyers going into court just as ignorant and redneck as the damn folks standing on trial. Horrendous. But this is what's in America. Good old US of A. This is what's here. And we got bubbas all over the United States, even in affluent communities, up north, out west, the south, it doesn't matter. There's bubbas in upstate New York. There's bubbles in the suburbs of Ohio. The mentality has always been here, and we already know this. We don't have to go back and relive history. We're still living history. This is a white man's demographic in the United States. It is what it is. Call a spade a spade. It is what it is. As they said, participation in the jury pool is important, not only so much to establish diversity of race and perhaps gender, but not bubble background, whatever that may be, Pate said. I represented doctors who have gone on trial. Now, was my jury made up of a bunch of doctors? Of course not. Even if there's no bubbles, as long as the lawyers are not removing people solely because of race, there's really no problem, Pate said. You have no legal right to a bubble-rich jury pool. Amen. That information is by CNN if you need verification. So basically that information is recapping that the jury felt like the defense was trying to pick a certain demographic, which is, we already know, white country folks, to be in the jury pool. It said they called 1,000 people to come to the jury selection, but not many people showed up. And as I state, you cannot make people take the summons, receive the summons, and or respond to the summons, because many people have reasons for why they don't want to be on the jury. And I get it. They have to live in the town in case they vote a certain way. They don't want to be scrutinized. They don't want people harassing them for their decision. It can cause many problems because this is still small town US of A. Thank you all so much for joining me. That's my first commentary. This is going to be by CNN. Amaud Aubry's mother wept as body cam video played during the first day of trial. This was uploaded the 5th of November. Amaud Aubry's mother put her head in her hands and wept as body cam video showed the aftermath of her son's shooting was played in court Friday. The pool reporter in the room who made the observation also noted that during that footage, one of the jurors was seen shielding herself from her notebook, seemingly unable to watch. It was the first day of trial for the 3 men accused of the 25-year-old jogger's killing. After the court was adjourned Friday evening, Wanda Cooper Jones, Aubry's mother, told reporters during a short press conference that watching the video was heartbreaking. The many times over the last couple of months, I've questioned what happened to Amaud in the last minutes of his life, she said. I often avoided the video, but today I decided it was time to see the video. The graphic video was body cam footage from Glenn County Police Officer William Duggan, who testified on Friday that he responded to the scene after finishing an off-duty job because he was nearby. Duggan testified he found a black man lying on the pavement when he arrived on the scene and a couple of other people nearby, which he later identified as the defendants. In the video, Duggan approaches Aubry, who was lying motionless face down in the street. The footage shows Duggan turning Aubry over on his back, his shirt and shorts saturated with blood. There's nothing I can do for this gentleman, Duggan is heard saying before removing his gloves and wiping his hands with a towel. EMS and fire personnel arrived soon after, the video shows. Gregory McMichael, his son Travis McMichael, and their neighbor William Roddy Bryan Jr. charged with malice and felony murder. They also face charges of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, criminal attempt to commit false imprisonment. They have all pleaded not guilty. During cross-examination from Jason Sheffield, attorney for Travis McMichael, the officer confirmed Aubry's eyes were also not moving when he arrived on the scene. Today was a very difficult day for the family, Lee Merritt, an attorney for Aubry's family, said in the press conference outside the courthouse. We saw some very graphic video today. We saw some very violent scenes. The attorney added, the most difficult, the most upsetting part was that the defense attorneys did everything they could to put the victim, Amaud Aubry, on trial to criminalize his very existence. Attorneys for the McMichaels said in their opening statements that their clients were trying to conduct a citizen's arrest for Aubry, whom they suspected of burglary after they and several neighbors had become concerned about individuals entering a home under construction. Travis McMichael only shot Aubry in self-defense, they said. But in her opening statement, prosecutor Linda Dunakowski had earlier argued the defendants tracked down, cornered, and fatally shot Aubry without evidence or knowledge he had done anything wrong. Amen. All three of these defendants did everything they did based on assumptions, she said, not on facts, not on evidence, on assumptions. Amen. And they made decisions in their driveways based on those assumptions that took a young man's life. Amen. CNN is the source. This information, just to recap, is the mother watching the video of her child's last moments on this earth. And that had to be horrendous for Mr. Aubry, let's say that. To be cornered by 3 white men, you don't know what you've done. You don't know why these people are chasing you, cornering you. You're trying to run. One's bumping you with a car, truck, and then you're fatally shot to death because you're a black man running down a street in a white neighborhood. And now, a year later, your parents and family in the community has to sit in a courtroom and look at the said video and decide if these three men are innocent or guilty of malice and felony murder. Was this an intentional homicide, intentional kidnapping of a black man? Yes, it is. It was. Because in the end, as I state, the law says in order to exact a citizen's arrest, one must be in the commission of a crime. I have the right to run, hop, skip any damn place I choose. You do not have the right to corner me. You have no right to follow me no damn where, with or without a weapon. You don't have the right. And they took it upon themselves, as that district attorney said, and followed the man, cornered the man, and made a sound decision that he was a criminal. He was burglarizing the neighborhood on an assumption because he had dark skin. He wasn't fair skinned. So you said to yourself, that black boy has been robbing us. Let's go follow him, Bubba. So 3 Bubbas followed a black man and killed him in cold blood. That's the said information. CNN is the source for that commentary. One more second. This is uploaded today, 11:06 a.m. CNN is the source for this. Number 3. Crime scene technician testifies in the trial of men charged with killing Amaud Aubry. Crime scene technician testified Monday morning in the trial of 3 men accused of chasing and killing Amaud Aubry in a residential neighborhood on the outskirts of Brunswick, Georgia. Sheila Ramos of the Glenn County Police Department said she arrived at the site of killing on February 23rd, 2020, and started taking photos as soon as she determined the scene had been secured. As a prosecutor showed photos to the jury on Monday, Ramos identified the images, including Aubry's body lying in the street under a blood-stained sheet, close-ups of his wounds, bloodstains on the pavement, the shotgun used to kill him lying in the grass, and spent shotgun shells. Several jurors squirmed in their seats as the first few photos of Aubry were shown. Aubry's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, exhaled quietly as Ramos identified close-ups of gaping gunshot wounds to Aubry's chest and wrist. Ramos said Aubry's body had been moved by the time she arrived because first aid was provided. Prosecutor Paul Camarillo showed Ramos a rectangular box, which she said contained the shotgun used to kill Aubry and 4 unfired and 1 fired shotgun shells. The gun was not taken out of the box. Ramos is the second witness to testify in the trial of Gregory McMichael, his son Travis McMichael, and their neighbor William Roddy Bryant Jr. Video of the killing surfaced more than 2 months after it happened, sparking widespread outrage and demonstrations just weeks before the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis set off a summer of nationwide protests against racial injustice. On Friday, the jury of 11 white and 1 black member heard the first witness. First witness testified on Friday. Glenn County Police Officer William Duggan testified he responded to the scene of the shooting to find a black man lying down, other people at the scene walking around. And I just brought you all that said information. Duggan said he felt Aubry was dead because of the amount of blood loss I saw on the scene, the lack of rise and fall of the chest, and basically the gaping wound I saw in his chest. There was nothing I could do for him. So you have a man testifying, officer coming to the scene. A man is shot in his chest, a black man. Anybody with sense could see. You shot him deliberately, did you not? Yes, you did. You shot a man in the chest. You meant harm. Why do you need a shotgun in the first place? Why does it take 3 people to confront somebody allegedly robbing someone, something? Also on Friday, prosecutors and defense lawyers made opening arguments. Prosecutor Linda Dunakoski told the jury that the defendants trapped Aubry, cornered and fatally shot him without evidence of knowledge he'd done anything wrong, despite saying they were attempting a citizen's arrest. In this case, all 3 defendants did everything based on assumptions, not on facts, evidence, on assumptions. Attorneys for the McMichaels contended their clients were trying to conduct a citizen's arrest of Aubry, whom they suspected of burglary after they and several neighbors had become concerned about individuals entering a home under construction. The evidence shows overwhelmingly that Travis McMichael honestly and lawfully attempted to detain Aubry according to the law and shot and killed him in self-defense, said Bob Rubin, Travis McMichael's defense attorney. Brian's attorney, Kevin Goss, said he would wait to present an opening statement until after the state presented its case. The McMichaels and Brown are charged with malice and felony murder in connection with Aubry's shooting. They also face charges of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal intent to commit false imprisonment. All have pleaded not guilty. Aubry's mother was in the courtroom Friday and watched the video of her son's death, later saying it was the first time she's seen the video in its entirety. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. I'll super chat to welcome during the live. This is my third source by CNN, and this is of the crime scene technician testifying in court. This was uploaded today at 11:06 a.m. It's now 2:30 in the high 10 Eastern Standard Time. And we also get information that Mr. Aubry's mother has finally watched the video in its entirety. So this woman sits in court alongside her husband and other relatives in the community to see the hunt of her son, a black man, cornered, kidnapped, and brutally shot to death, murdered on a public street in the state of Georgia. It's very horrendous information. The defense will say they were doing their citizens right. Citizens doing the right thing. They thought he was robbing them. But that is the point of the law. Was Mr. Aubry robbing a said home business at the time when these people attempted to detain him? And you can't say neither, because he didn't have anything with him when he was jogging. From my understanding, he didn't even have a shirt on. So what was he taking from the house, a vacant house? What was he going to steal exactly? And he didn't have anything, so that's the point of the story. He didn't have anything when he was jogging. You just saw a black man running and you assume he had been doing something. And let me say for the record in this commentary before I sign off on this story, the person who owns the house never saw or complained of Mr. Aubry or any other man, black man, attempting to rob that said vacant home. Let me make that clear in this live. That person has been interviewed. Surveillance footage has been shown to the police and the public, and there is no video footage of Amaud Aubry ever stealing anything from that said house that day or beforehand in 2020. And yes, there had been robberies stemming from around December 19 into 2020, into the new year. The neighborhood had a few burglaries, but none of those burglaries have ever been linked to Amaud Aubry. Let me say that for the record. None. Not one arrest. Mr. Aubry robbing any said car or home in that neighborhood. And the owner of that said house never called police to say Amaud Aubry was snooping around his property, nor did he take anything. And they have video surveillance of Amaud looking around, and nothing was ever taken from that said house by Amaud Aubry. CNN is that source. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay. This is my last source pertaining to the Aubry trial. Amaud Aubry's father leaves courtroom as jury shown images of son fatal wounds. Amaud Aubry's father, Marcus Aubry Sr., exits the courtroom before close-up graphic photos of his son's body were shown to jurors. The trial for the three men charged with killing Amaud Aubry, a black man from Georgia, continued Monday. Aubry, 25, was shot from a close range after being chased by white men in a pickup truck who saw him jogging in their neighborhood. Aubry's slaying is one of the many killings that received national attention in the last year due to the racial undertones of this case. Glenn County's Police Sergeant Sheila Ramos displayed dozens of crime scene photos she took roughly an hour after the February 23, 2020 shooting. Some of the pictures showed the gaping hole from the gunshot wound in Aubry's chest and injuries to his wrist and underneath his arm. Another picture depicted Aubry's body on the street covered with a bloody tarp. Ramos said she collected 2 spent shotgun shells at the scene, and investigators found a third fired shell still inside the blood-stained 12-gauge shotgun. While some of the jurors were seen squirming as the photos were shown, Amaud Aubry's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, remained in the courtroom. Most of the jurors for the Friday trial are proportionately white. You also will see a picture of Mr. Gregory McMichael sitting next to his attorney, Laura Hogue, during the trial of William Roddy Brown, himself and his sons, Travis McMichael, who are charged in the February 2020 death of 25-year-old Amaud Aubry, the Gwynn County Superior Court at the Gwynn County Superior Court in Brunswick, Georgia, November 5th, 2021. Doesn't look very happy there, Mr. Gregory McMichael. You look a little smaller there, too. It's amazing what sitting in jail can do to one's appearance and demeanor. Shut up, Queen. Prosecutors complained at the end of the jury selection last week that several black potential jurors were excluded because of their race, leaving only one black juror on the panel of 12. Superior Court Judge Timothy Walmsley said he found that intentional discrimination by defense attorneys appeared to have shaped jury selection, but he said Georgia law limited his authority to intervene. Father and son Greg and Travis Michael armed themselves and used a pickup truck to pursue Aubry after they spotted him running in their neighborhood. A neighbor, William Roddy Brown, joined the chase and took cell phone video of Travis McMichael shooting Aubry in the street at close range. No arrests were made for more than 2 months until the video of the killing leaked online and sparked a national outcry, deepening a national reckoning over racial injustice. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the case from the local police. Both McMichaels and Bryan were soon charged with murder and other crimes. Defense attorney said the men were justified to chase and attempt to detain Aubry because he had been recorded by security cameras inside a nearby home under construction, and they suspected he was a burglar. They said Travis McMichael fired in self-defense when Aubry attacked him with fists and tried to grab his gun. Of course. Why would he not? That's my third source of information. Fourth information. So I brought you information pertaining to the father leaving the courtroom today, upset at the photographs of his dead child. I brought you information of a crime scene tech testifying today. I brought you information pertaining to the judge giving his commentary that the defense has a disproportionate jury pool of only 11 whites and 1 black. And I brought you information of Miss Wanda weeping in court, looking at the said video in its entirety of her son being hunted down in Georgia. And as I state, there are no testimonies that Amaud Aubry ever robbed any business or house under construction in that neighborhood. Surveillance has shown him looking around, but that is it. He didn't steal anything. He didn't take anything on that day of the video surveillance footage or on the day that he was murdered. And to exact a citizen's arrest in the United States, you have to be in the commission of a crime in order to be detained by a fellow citizen or citizen. And on that said day, there is no proof that Amaud Aubry robbed anyone for these 3 people to corner him, kidnap him, subdue him, kill him in cold blood. There are no facts, information, video surveillance, eyewitness accounts that Mr. Aubry robbed the said house or any business, home, car on that said day in 2020. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you all so much. This is a harrowing tale out of Georgia. You see, people profile you by how you look. People look at how you look from the moment you walk into a store, the moment you step outside your car, you hit the pavement. People are looking at your hair. How does your hair look? Is it in braids? Is it in twists? Is it in dreadlocks? Is it colored? Is it short? Do your clothes look neat? Do you smell good? You see, you are watched every day. You walk outside your house as a dark-skinned person, brown-skinned person, biracial person, Hispanic, indigenous, all the same. You are looked at. You are judged. You walk into the mall. They're looking at everything from your foot to your head to your foot. He got money. She got money. Do they look like they got money? What they doing in this store? What they going to buy? They going to steal? They going to rob us? What they going to do? But see, while you're watching the black man, the Mexican, the indigenous, is the white man and woman over there in the corner putting shit in their pocketbook. Come on with it, Queen. Bring them that knowledge. You watching me, but the white girl over there is stealing. What you watching me for? See, that's what you all don't seem to understand about profiling people. That is the reason why black people continue to be stopped in cars, stopped in stores, because you watching us, looking at us, thinking we getting ready to take something, hold somebody up. I'm not the one you should be watching. You're supposed to watch everybody. That's the law of the land. You watch everybody. Let me give you some information about East Tennessee. This is a pill mill country. Nothing but white folks and black folks on drugs down here. Heroin, pills, fentanyl, ice. So when a person walks into the store, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Abercrombie and Fitch, whatever the hell the name of the store is, you better watch everybody. The hell you just watching a black man for? You better watch that white lady. You better watch that old white lady. Oop, did I not tell you that white people steal? Little white old ladies steal. Little white men steal. Middle-aged people steal. Everybody steals. You see, it's a matter of what you're stealing, you see. You don't think it's no big deal because somebody stole $5.5 million out of somebody's account, but they were white. But you would judge a black man because he stole a bag of potato chips or a shirt out of a store. Stealing is stealing, and God said it's wrong no matter how you did it, no matter when you did it. No matter if it's 5.5 million, a shirt, a sock, a shoe, a purse, baby clothes, don't matter. Theft is theft. God didn't stipulate what kind of theft was better than another theft. He said, do not steal, period. That's what he meant. So people need to stop categorizing theft. White collar crime goes on every day. And you have many Caucasian people who commit white collar crimes in America and abroad. But an average citizen who steals, especially a dark-skinned person, they're judged more harshly for going in a store stealing, but you don't judge Madoff for stealing millions of dollars. That man stole money that he didn't have no business stealing. This man was already a said man, made man in the 70s. I even came out my mama's womb, and Madoff was already a made man. And people have said he had no reason to steal money. He was already a made man, a self-made man. But he was greedy, and he found a way over the years to milk people out of their money and steal from them, rob them, to make more money, to feed his ego. He was greedy, and he found a way to pocket money out of working citizens. And normal, average Americans gave up their savings to this man who they trusted. And he bought cars, shoes, clothes, Gucci slippers, watches. For those who ever followed the commentary, an ABC documentary of Madoff, his bedroom was aligned with fancy watches and slippers. That's who Madoff was. He was a name whore. Many people are like that. It's got to be Gucci. It's got to be Louis Vuitton. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's got to be the top brand. But in the end, all that shit comes from China, so it ain't got no value. I keep trying to tell some of you that. Don't matter about no name. Dollar Tree, Michael Kors, it's all the same because it comes from China. And so long as it come off that boat in China, it don't matter about it being no Gucci, Michael Kors, Donna Karan. It's all the same. Stay woke. You see, that is what's wrong with the world. People are always judging people by how they look. You know, you see, a poor man could go dress up in a suit and go in a department store, and people think that he's well off because he walked in there in a fine suit. And then you can get a rich man go in the same store dressed down in a jogging suit, and people will profile him thinking he doesn't have any money or she don't have any money. But little do they know it's a billionaire in a jogging suit. Do you understand what I'm saying? You see, you cannot judge a book by its cover. You can't judge somebody because they walked in the store in tennis shoes and a ponytail and say, well, she ain't got no money. She getting ready to steal something. You don't know that. You're supposed to watch everybody in a department store. All people steal. All people lie. Amen. My next story is pertaining to Rittenhouse. Thank you so much. This is a lengthy live because I'm bringing you updates on stories I have not covered. 2 trials have started. Rittenhouse, upstate, and the McMichaels and Mr. Roddy for the death of Mr. Amaud Aubry. That's the said information I've brought you. As most of you know, Rittenhouse is on trial for shooting some people upstate last year. Last year was a very trying time for African American people in this country due to the murder of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. And also we'll bring you information about that thug too. I got to bring you an update pertaining to him. He and his wife have been charged with tax fraud. Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is the source. Car shop owners deny asking Rittenhouse armed men to protect their property during unrest. Two brothers whose family owned 3 car lots downtown told jurors in Kyle Rittenhouse homicide trial they never asked this group of armed men to protect their businesses or gave them permission to do so. Some from that group have previously testified a friend of Rittenhouse who used to work at Car Source had offered to help, and Amaud Sam Kendry accepted and gave keys to get inside the repair shop and a ladder to get on the roof. Kendry told jurors Friday he had no such conversations, nor did he offer keys to the shop. He recalled that early on August 25th, 2020, Rittenhouse was among dozens of people who spoke to him with sympathy and encouragement after the family's main car lot had been burned on the night of the unrest. And when you open up this article, you will see a picture of Sahil Kendry, whose family owns Car Source, testified during Kyle Rittenhouse trial at the Kenosha County Courthouse on November 5th in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And naturally, most of you already know that he's been accused of shooting 3 demonstrators, killing 2 of them during a night of unrest that erupted in Kenosha after a police officer shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back while being arrested in August 2020. Rittenhouse from Antioch, Illinois, was 17 at the time of the shooting and armed with an assault rifle. He faces counts of felony homicide and felony attempted homicide. Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is the source if you need to know who I'm bringing you information from. Sahil Kendry, his brother, also testified. He said he was working with a technician at the family's Car Source lot at 63rd Street and Sheridan Road when Rittenhouse, a group of friends, and some older men with rifles were mustering at the lot. This would be where Rittenhouse later killed Joseph Rosenbaum. Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger asked, so all these guys are on your family's property and you don't ask them to leave? No, not when they're dressed like that, he said. He even posted a picture with them in the group. Defense attorney Corey Sharafisi suggested Amaud Kendry might be trying to avoid civil liability that might flow from allowing the armed men on the family property where someone was killed. Kendry denied any such concern. He seemed unclear and evasive to several more questions from Sharafisi about the extent of the business losses, whether it was insured or if the family had hired a lawyer to deal with the insurance company. Kendry also seemed to be confused about who he might have seen where and when on August 25th, but repeatedly maintained he made no efforts to obtain the protection of Rittenhouse's group. So were you just willing to let your property be damaged on the 25th? You just resigned yourself to it? Kendry said he didn't know. And in this said commentary, you also will see a picture of a defense attorney, Corey Sharafisi, asked about Kyle Rittenhouse having his hands up as he approached Kenosha police officer P.P. Moretti's squad car after the shootings during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial at the Kenosha County Courthouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the 5th of 2021 in November. Earlier Friday, Karen Swart, Rosenbaum's fiance, testified he had returned to the motel where the couple had been living late in the afternoon of August 25th after a hospital stay in Milwaukee. She said he took medications to control bipolar condition. They talked into the evening, she said, before he left on foot around 9:30 p.m. She said she told him not to go downtown because of the unrest and curfew. Rosenbaum was among crowds milling around on Sheridan Road about 2 hours later, acting very aggressive to others, according to several witnesses. He tried to start fires and at some point demanded the armed men shoot him. One said Rosenbaum told him and Rittenhouse he would kill them if he ever saw either of them alone. Let me read that again. One said Rosenbaum told him and Rittenhouse he would kill them if he ever saw either of them alone. Not long after that, he chased Rittenhouse, who was alone, into the 63rd Street Car Source lot, where Rittenhouse shot him 4 times. As he ran north after the shooting, Rittenhouse bumped into one of the older armed men he'd been with earlier in the night. Jason Lakowski served 5 years in the Marines. He testified Friday he come from Brown Deer sometime after 10 p.m. with his AR-15 rifle to help the community. He said he heard the shots while at 59th Street and ran south. He met Rittenhouse at the northern edge of 63rd Street lot. He looked pale and frazzled and told Lakowski, "I didn't shoot anybody, but I need help." Lakowski said he told Rittenhouse to go to the police, which had established a major presence at 60th Street. He said he started to go with them, but stopped and turned south when he heard more gunshots. Seconds later, more shots rang out from the north. That's when he said he blacked out, like lights out, but nobody home, he said. Rittenhouse had just fatally shot Rosenbaum on the far side of the car lot. Also in the said commentary, you'll see a photograph of a Wisconsin police officer testifying. This is the evidence technician, Jeffrey Van Weed, testifies about taking swabs from rifles during the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. This is on the 5th in Kenosha at the courthouse. Rittenhouse, as I said, is accused of shooting 3 demonstrators, killing 2 of them during the night of unrest that erupted in Kenosha after a police officer shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back while being arrested in August 2020. And Mr. Rittenhouse is from Antioch, Illinois. 17 at the time, which means he was an unlawful person carrying a gun in the state of Wisconsin, which is against the law for those who didn't know. I'm just telling you that. Facing homicide, felony homicide, and felony attempted homicide. On cross-examination, Sheriff Feasey, the defense attorney, asked if it wasn't more logical that Rittenhouse told him he had shot someone and needed help. Amen. Right. Why didn't he tell that he shot somebody? Why are you telling him you need help? See, you already aiding what you did was wrong. Now, I'm not saying what that man did was right by running up on him, but as we see, he obviously bipolar, had problems, but of course, there's no excuse when you're approaching people, you're asking for trouble, whether they are armed or not. And I do not agree with citizens running around with guns, even though this is the law in Wisconsin that you can carry a gun. But Rittenhouse was under the age of 18. And he was not permitted to have a rifle. By law, he broke the law by having any type of weapon on his persons in the state of Wisconsin. Binger, the prosecutor, objected, noting Lakowski's testimony was consistent with his statement to the FBI soon after the event. The judge agreed the question was argumentative. Lakowski said he also didn't hear several people yelling Rittenhouse had shot someone. Only one statement of "get him." Sheriff Feasey asked if whoever the him was had something to worry about given the crowd. Lakowski said yes. He said he didn't include Rittenhouse could have shot someone based on his non-aggressive behavior earlier that night. I'm going to bring you a few key points pertaining to this trial. Kenosha officer said scene resembled a war zone as Kyle Rittenhouse tried to surrender. Car shop owners deny asking Rittenhouse armed men to protect their property during unrest. Witnesses say he stood just 15 feet away when Kyle Rittenhouse fatally shot first person. A timeline of how the Kyle Rittenhouse case played out over the last year following the shootings in Kenosha. If you want that, this will be in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. What to know about Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Kenosha, including how to watch the proceedings. All this can be found in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and the source for this information I'm bringing to you today. The next thing Lakowski remembered was seeing Gage Grosskreutz kneeling on the roadside screaming for a medic. He had just been shot in the arm by Rittenhouse. He said he helped apply a tourniquet until police came and moved Grosskreutz into an armored car. He then warned off a bystander who was about to pick up Grosskreutz handgun. Lakowski took it, removed the magazine, and emptied the chamber before handing it to police. Lakowski described being trained to shout, shove, show, then shoot when dealing with aggression or possible attack. Is runaway or retreating there? Sheriff Feasey asked. Ever been trained to head for the hills? Lakowski said no. Rittenhouse faces a count: reckless homicide and Rosenbaum's death, attempted intentional homicide for shooting Grosskreutz, and first-degree intentional homicide in the death of Anthony Huber. If you need verification for the information I brought to you, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel is the source. The next update pertaining to the Rittenhouse trial is by CNN.com. Hello, everybody in the chat. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. This is a lengthy live pertaining to the trial of Amaud Aubry, the death and murder of Amaud Aubry by the McMichaels and Mr. Roddy. And also, these are updates I'm bringing to you pertaining to the Rittenhouse trial. CNN is the source. Kyle Rittenhouse, the armed Illinois teenager who killed 2 people and wounded another during unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin last summer, is on trial. Homicide charges. Rittenhouse is now 18, charged with 5 felonies. The case stems from Rittenhouse's actions in the wake of protests related to the police shooting of Jacob Blake in August 2020, which left Blake paralyzed. It's a case that will test the distinction between self-defense and vigilante killings. This was uploaded just 2 minutes ago. Shooting victim clarifies he never intentionally pointed his gun at Rittenhouse. Shooting victim Gage Grosskreutz clarified during redirect questioning by the prosecution that he never intentionally pointed his gun at Kyle Rittenhouse during the shooting. Kenosha, Wisconsin Assistant DA Thomas Binger asked Grosskreutz if at any point during the encounter with Rittenhouse did he intentionally point his firearm at the defendant. He responded, "No, I did not." Asked if he felt there was imminent danger that the defendant was going to kill him, he said yes. During cross-examination, Grosskreutz acknowledged that his handgun was in his right hand and pointed towards Rittenhouse before he was shot. This was uploaded 1 hour and 30 minutes ago. Shooting victim acknowledges that he pointed his gun at Rittenhouse. Gage Grosskreutz, the lone surviving victim who was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, acknowledged during cross-examination that he was pointing his gun at Rittenhouse when he was shot in the arm. During the cross-examination, Rittenhouse's defense attorney showed the witness portions of video and still images captured that night. In the footage, Grosskreutz can be seen about 3 to 5 feet from Rittenhouse as he shoots Anthony Hooper, who died. During testimony, when asked if he was advancing on Rittenhouse while the defendant was seated on his butt on the ground after shooting Hooper, Grosskreutz said yes. The defense then showed an image of Grosskreutz with his gun in his right hand standing a few feet from Rittenhouse. Grosskreutz agreed with the defense that his firearm was pointed at Rittenhouse. Grosskreutz said that the image, which captured the moment he was shot, shows his bicep being vaporized. Rittenhouse's defense attorney asked him if when his bicep is being vaporized, if his gun was pointed at the defendant. Grosskreutz said yes. It wasn't until you pointed your gun at Rittenhouse that he fired, the attorney asked. Correct, Grosskreutz said. Grosskreutz also said he did not have any regrets about the way that night unfolded. You have some regrets from that evening, don't you? The attorney asked. No, Grosskreutz replied. Okay. An hour and 54 minutes ago, this was uploaded to CNN. Shooting victim denies that he was chasing Rittenhouse with his gun during cross-examination. A defense attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse asked shooting victim Gage Grosskreutz during cross-examination if he pulled a firearm from his belt and chased the defendant prior to being shot. Grosskreutz responded that is not true. The defense showed a still image from a video of Grosskreutz running with his hand reaching into the back of his pants at his waist where his gun was concealed. Grosskreutz acknowledged that at that point, Rittenhouse was about 30 feet ahead of him. Asked again if he agreed that he was chasing Rittenhouse, the witness said no. Grosskreutz acknowledged that he heard others who were running saying, "Get his ass," and "get him," in reference to Rittenhouse. Grosskreutz said that he was concerned for Rittenhouse's safety. 2 hours and 27 minutes ago, shooting victim says he has no sensation in lower part of his arm that was shot by Rittenhouse. Prosecutors closed out their direct questioning of shooting victim Gage Grosskreutz by asking him about any physical issues with his arm that persist since the incident. He said that along with having issues lifting larger, heavier things, he has a neurological deficit in his arm. Grosskreutz said that while he is able to move his right arm, his upper forearm down to his right thumb, he has no sensation. Grosskreutz is now being cross-examined by the defense 2 hours and 35 minutes ago. Shooting victim says he spent a week in the hospital and underwent multiple surgeries for gunshot wound to arm. Gage Grosskreutz said that he had multiple tourniquets applied to his right arm at the scene to attempt to stop the bleeding after being shot. Earlier Monday, he testified that most of his right bicep was shot off by Kyle Rittenhouse. Graphic images were shown in court of Grosskreutz' arm on Monday morning. From the shooting, Grosskreutz said he was taken to the emergency room. The hospital determined he needed to be taken by ambulance to another hospital. From there, he was transported to flight to Milwaukee for surgery. Grosskreutz testified that he had at least 2 more surgeries to clean off the tissue in the early morning hours of the day after the incident. He said that a few days later, he underwent more surgery to attempt to repair his arm. Overall, Grosskreutz said he spent a week in the hospital for emergency care and several months in physical therapy for his injury. 3 hours and 15 minutes ago, video played in court shows Rittenhouse shooting multiple people in the street. Shooting victim Gage Grosskreutz testified he thought he was going to die after observing Kyle Rittenhouse shoot somebody else. Gross Cruz testified that he saw Rittenhouse shoot Anthony Huber, who later died. After he saw Huber get shot, he said he was very close to the defendant and believed there was a high likelihood that he would be shot himself. Video played in court showed Rittenhouse shooting Huber. The video then showed Rittenhouse with his AR-15 gun raised and pointed to Gross Cruz, whose hands were in the air. In one hand, Gross Cruz was holding his handgun. At that point, Gross Cruz said he observed Rittenhouse re-wrap his weapon, readying it to fire. He said that he felt he had to do something to prevent himself from being killed. However, he testified he did not fire his gun. Video shows that Rittenhouse then shot Gross Cruz in the arm. I was hit in my right bicep, he said, adding, I effectively lost a large majority of my right bicep. 3 hours and 27 minutes ago, shooting victims live stream shows him asking Rittenhouse, you shot somebody? Gage Gross Cruz testified that he was standing near an Ultimate gas station when he heard gunshots. At the time, Gross Cruz was live streaming when he heard a series of gunshots ring out a few blocks south of where he was located. He then observed people running north and yelling, medic. Gross Cruz said he started to hear people yelling that somebody had been shot. As he was running toward where he heard the shots, he said he had contact with the defendant. Prosecutors played part of Gross Cruz's live stream in court, which showed him coming in contact with Rittenhouse on the street. In the video, you can hear him ask the defendant, what are you doing? And you shot somebody? Gross Cruz testified that at the time, he thought that Rittenhouse responded, I'm working with the police. I didn't do anything. He said in court that after reviewing the video, he thought he heard Rittenhouse say, I'm going to the police, adding, I didn't do anything. Gross Cruz testified that the video was muffled and hard to hear, but that's what I make out of it. Asked what his reaction was to this, he said that he thought the Rittenhouse response was odd, but also noteworthy. He said that previously in the night, another person described some sort of plan with the police. He said that person said there was an understanding that the police were going to push protesters in one direction, and it was up to militia members to deal with them. Okay. This got just a little bit more. Hold on 1 minute. 1 second. This is a lot to deal with here. A lot of information. 3 hours and 45 minutes ago, shooting victim describes arriving at the protest in Kenosha. Gage Gross Cruz, the lone survivor who was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, described arriving in an already chaotic scene in Kenosha, Wisconsin on the evening of August 25th, 2020. Gross Cruz, a certified EMT in Wisconsin, said he left Milwaukee around 7 after he got off work to head to Kenosha. Gross Cruz said he spent part of the summer of 2020 after the death of George Floyd, providing voluntary medical assistance at various protests. He testified that he decided to come to Kenosha in late August because he thought there was a propensity for violence, injuries in general, at the demonstrations and believed he could be of assistance to the people. On the night of August 25th, he testified that he arrived in Kenosha with medical gear, including a tourniquet, quick clot, chest wound seals, gloves, and saline spray. He said that he was wearing a black shirt with a Wu-Tang logo, khaki shorts, and a blue hat with large lettering that said paramedic. He also was carrying a concealed handgun. He said that at the time, his permit to carry the concealed weapon had expired. Now, see, that's crazy. Why are you there with an expired license? It's permit. It's crazy. He said the gun, a .40 caliber Glock 27, was holstered in the small of his back. He could not recall if there was a bullet around in the chamber. Gross Cruz said that as he walked toward the courthouse, there was already confrontation between demonstrators and the police, with demonstrators throwing water bottles and police shooting pepper balls. He said he started treating people who were affected by the pepper spray and delegating to other demonstrators to help. He estimated he treated around 10 people. Gross Cruz's testimony is ongoing. Gross Cruz was shot in the arm by Kyle Rittenhouse during a night of protests in Kenosha last year. He's the only one of the 3 men shot who survived. Rittenhouse shot and injured Gross Cruz, who approached him shortly after Anthony Huber was shot. The criminal complaint alleged Gross Cruz ducked to the ground when Huber was shot and took a step back. According to the complaint, Gross Cruz put his hands in the air and then began to move toward Rittenhouse, who then fired one shot, hitting Gross Cruz in the arm, according to the complaint. Gross Cruz was holding a handgun, but had his hands up, the complaint says. As I state, Gross Cruz is one of the 3 men shot by Rittenhouse during the night of protests in Kenosha, and the only one to survive. Rittenhouse shot him, who approached him shortly after Anthony Hoover was shot. And Mr. Grosskreutz ducked to the ground when Hoover was shot and took a step back, according to the complaint. And his hands were up in the air and then began to move toward Rittenhouse, who then fired one shot, hitting Grosskreutz in the arm, according to the complaint. And as most of you know, Mr. Rittenhouse is on trial for murder. He is an Illinois teenager who went over to Wisconsin illegally with a gun at the time of 17 years of age. He's now 18, and he's accused of fatally shooting Anthony M. Huber, 26, Joseph Rosenbaum, 36, and wounding Gage Grosskreutz, now 27. This is just a very sad situation that took place. If you want to go into the said information, this is a live recap of CNN News. I'm not going to read all the rest because it's so lengthy. I'm already an hour in just from reading information. I thank you all for joining me. But in the end, my take on the situation in Kenosha is like anywhere in Minneapolis with George Floyd. You go seek out trouble, you'll find trouble. Even in going to help, you can get into trouble. This man went in, had a gun with an expired permit, also a paramedic, EMT, whichever. He thought he was going to help, and he ends up being confronted by Mr. Rittenhouse. He's alleging that he did have a gun. He had his hands up with the gun in his hand, and then Rittenhouse shoots him. I don't know, because it's been a while since I've watched the said footage, but nonetheless, you can also be probably brought up on charges for having that gun with you, even though he didn't discharge it, but you had the gun on your persons without a valid permit. I don't know if there'll be charges or not. It's up to law enforcement and district attorney. Rittenhouse was underage. He had no business going over to that state or any state to be involved in a protest. You are a child. You should stay in a child's place. And that's what people need to understand about protests. You could honestly be going in good favor to do right, to protest for whatever reason. You feel like you're going to behave in an appropriate manner. But that has nothing to do with the participants there. They may not be there for the right reason, and you can get yourself caught up in a very harrowing situation such as death. Rittenhouse had no business crossing over state lines. His mother took him. She's guilty too. Her ass should be charged. Why did she take her son over there? Did he tell her why he was going over there to a whole nother state? To do what exactly? You had a gun that you bought. One of your friends bought a gun for you and they kept it in the basement, the father's basement. I think it was locked. The day you went over there, they gave you the gun. So that man needs to be liable as well because you didn't give a gun to a child. And it's believed that Rittenhouse's friend is the one who purchased the gun. So that means he was of age to buy the gun. You're liable. So the friend's liable for buying the gun. The father's liable for holding the gun hostage and giving it to him on that said day. So we're talking about 2 adults also alongside the mother. So we're not talking about 3 adults are liable for aiding Rittenhouse to this demonstrous event. So now we got a child walking around with a gun in another state trying to help people, guard businesses, Rittenhouse is like so many people that I've noticed. And this is not to be racist because we probably have some Hispanic and Black people who are the same, but a lot of Caucasian people like to be Captain Save-A-Hoes. And I've noticed that with these stand your ground states and people that want to be in these militia and vigilante mindsets. You always want to be involved in something. You want to be proven to be important, validated. So you always want to intervene on behalf of another person. But you have to remember about intervening. Do you know what you're intervening? Whether you have a gun or not, a weapon or not. Some of you are lonely vessels and you want to be validated. This is Rittenhouse. He wanted to be in military, police work, EMT work, whichever. That was mentioned that night. He told different people that night he was this, he was that. We also got testimony now that the people that owned the car lot said we didn't ask for his help, but they didn't deny them either when they were there with the guns. The guy testifies, the son of the business owner says, well, look how they were dressed. Yeah, but look what also happened too. A child has just killed some people. And like I said, everybody that's protesting are not bad people. And that's the thing about protesting. You don't know what's going to jump off when you're around hundreds of people cussing, fussing, throwing stuff. You're in the midst of that. You may not have that attitude and mentality, but if you're law officials or some vigilante group, they're grouping you all the same. Oh yeah, they're with the shit. They're coming to stir up trouble. And that's the thing about protesting. Everybody that's protesting is not the same. Everybody's not with the violence, looting and burning things and setting fires. But you're in that group, so you will be perceived as trouble. That's why you have to be careful in going to protests, participating. It is your right as a citizen, but as I stated with the event that happened in Houston with the Astro World event, hundreds of people, thousands of people, anything could jump off, and you don't know which way to go, which way to run. You become a casualty of war by happenstance. You have to know your surroundings. You have to know that on any given moment, anything can jump off and happen when you're in a crowd of a lot of people. And frankly, I wouldn't be out at night at a protest, daytime perhaps, but not nighttime. Because that's usually when people get more crunk, is at night, and they start doing frivolous, felonious things. And why be in the midst of that? I prefer peaceful protests, but see, the jump off of that is the same. You could start off one way and end another. Prayers to the victims, families, prayers for us as people, because like I said, there's a lot of civil unrest in this country. There's going to continue to be unrest because we have people who like to profile. We have people who like to deem everybody the same, deem all black people the same, and these issues all tend to be the same. Profiling people by their car, the way they look. And then it also doesn't help if you resist arrest. I don't recommend that any race. Let me say that. If the police say stop, stop. They say put your hands out the car, put your hands out the car. They say get on the ground, get on the ground. Kneel on the ground, kneel on the ground. Put your weapon down, put your weapon down. He say stop talking, stop talking. Just do what they ask you. Ask to preserve your own life, the safety of others, and not end up a damn CNN story. Do what they ask you to do. Whether you think they're in the wrong or not, it doesn't matter. You got time to fight it later while alive, not dead in a coffin, and now your family has to fight for you as a dead person. Follow the instructions of the law. It will save your life, because you do have law enforcement that get crunk. They're coming to work with all these problems. They're mad at the world. They're carrying the weight on their shoulders. Anything can jump off, because that's the thing. You're trying to trust the judgment of somebody with a damn gun. And like I said, I do not condone vigilante justice, people running around with guns, trying to jump in and pretend to be cops and sheriff when they don't know what they're doing. They don't know the situation. Because this guy probably thought that Rittenhouse was okay until he learned he shot somebody, because the people are yelling, hey, the medic, he's the shooter. So this guy is trying to assess what they're talking about. And who's to say what they saw and didn't see to know who did what, didn't do what. So he's trying to assess everything from he said, she said. But he did have a weapon. And the sad part with him is he had a weapon pulled out without a permit that was valid. So if you're going to go to the rodeo, you need to go correct. This is why I said why some people don't have no business out on the streets. He said he went in good favor to help, but look how it ended. He witnessed a murder. He then also got shot by the same person who shot that guy. Now he has no feeling in his damn arm. That's the sad information coming out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. The story of the hour. Sorry it's taking so long to get to it. Miss Gloria Williams. My. What do we have here? New York Post is the source. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. New York Post is my last source. Judge hikes bail for Texas mother accused of abandoning kids with son's corpse. In the set picture, you will see Miss Gloria standing in court in an orange jumpsuit, hands shackled around her waist, from her waist. A woman deputy inside of the courtroom alongside her, and a attorney, I guess. Gloria Williams is being held on a $1.5 million bond for her role in the death of her son, 8-year-old Kendrick Lee. The Texas mother, whose 3 children were found living in deplorable conditions with the remains of their 8-year-old brother, is now being held on a $1.5 million bond after a judge found her original bail insufficient. Gloria Williams, 35, was also illegally receiving government benefits for young Kendrick Lee nearly a year after he was allegedly beaten to death by her boyfriend, Brian Coulter, 31, prosecutors allege at a Friday court hearing. Hold on one second. Okay. Williams faced a Houston judge in connection with the alleged abandonment of her 3 sons in an apartment where Lee's body had been decaying since last Thanksgiving, prosecutors said. The children, ages 7, 10, 15, were left to fend for themselves for months in the squalid, unfurnished, vermin-infested home, while Williams and Coulter moved to nicer digs, authorities said. In this commentary, you will see a picture of a beautiful African-American baby boy who was beat to death by Williams' boyfriend, Brian Coulter. He was an itty-bitty spider sitting on a step with another child in the corner of the picture. Harris County prosecutor Andrea Beal told the court that Williams had pocketed about $2,000 a month in welfare for 3 of the kids, including Lee, over the past year, even after she allegedly moved out of the apartment in March and left the kids alone with their dead brother, according to Houston's ABC 13. The prosecutor also alleged that Coulter punched a 10-year-old boy in the jaw, and neither he nor William got the child medical care. The boy's jaw became infected and needed surgery, Beal said. District Judge Kelly Johnson raised Williams' bond on 2 felony child injury charges from $350,000 to $1 million at the request of the prosecutor. Johnson said Williams' original total bond of $900,000 was insufficient. The local station reported she's also charged with tampering with evidence. Neil Davis III, her public defender, argued against the raise, calling it not necessary and oppressive due to her inability to even pay a small fraction of the sum. Davis told the court his client was not really sophisticated and didn't understand the severity of the charges. Coulter, who allegedly beat Lee to death in front of 2 of his brothers, is charged with murder and also remains in jail. Authorities finally rescued the boys when the oldest brother called police on October 24. Williams also has 2 daughters that were not living in the house of horror. If you need verification for this information, NewYorkPost.com is the source. Once again, this dirty heifer, Gloria Williams, her bond has been hiked to $1.5 million. Her lawyer stands in court to say it wasn't necessary because she doesn't have the means. Well, she had the means to keep spending a dead man's money, a dead baby's money, excuse me. So she knew exactly what she was doing. She drew a check for herself, disability, and her children. She moved out of the apartment afterwards and left those kids to fend for themselves, bringing only sweets to them once a month. Oldest child left with a cell phone. I don't know if it was a government phone, Wi-Fi only. It doesn't matter. I don't get into all that logistic stuff because in the end, it really won't matter. The point is, the woman had children. One of her girl children was raised by the baby daddy's mother. One's dead. One wasn't around, whatsoever. She met up with this white boy, got tangled up with him. She allowed this man to abuse her children, beat her children. One has a broke jaw that went into surgery. Finally, by the grace of God, one was laid dead in there for a whole damn year. And there's no way you can excuse the behavior of the people living in the apartment management, this bio donor, the boyfriend, the family members, the school system, DHS, because somebody knew something. The smell of death is horrendous from what I've been told. There's no way you could have lived in that apartment building and not raised hell yourself with the management to say, hey, there's something dead in this damn building and I want something done about it. We can scratch Gloria off the list because she don't give a fuck about herself. So she definitely care about her damn kids. But I, as a resident living, I ain't getting ready to live up in no building that smell like nothing dead. I'm going to put it down to you and tell you. You need to come over here and check this right here because I smell something dead. And I'm going to ride or die on it. And if I got to call the newspaper, whomever, radio station, whomever, to say, hey, I'm living in this place and they won't do nothing about this smell. It smells like death up in here. Call the police. Why didn't y'all call the police? You calling the management? Hell, call the police and say, hey, there's something dead up in this building and they won't do nothing about it. That's why I said call the police. They can get something done quicker than calling the damn DHS and the damn manager of the complex or the owner of a complex. Because as you see, this is just horrendous. What happened to the child being beat to death and then left there to die? People being eyewitnesses, the children, the mother. Nobody does anything. Nobody calls 911. Nobody calls the police. Nobody calls nobody. Family members, neighbors, nothing. Everybody was ho-hum with a dead person lying in a room. She knew right from wrong because she's coveted the money, food stamps, resources for the children's disabilities, and plus herself, allegedly. So she knew what she was doing. She's complicit. She let the body lie in there. She's complicit. She moved out of there, which means she has knowledge to know right from wrong because she's left a child dead and other children behind. So that means she knew right from wrong. Why would you move out? Not take your children with you. You all could have disposed of an 8-year-old. Come on. They could have easily disposed of that child in a rug, a tub, and dumped the body somewhere. Nobody would have never known unless one of the children told it, which one finally did a year later. No way in my right mind I'm going to believe this woman does not know right from wrong. You say whatever you want about Gloria and Mr. Coulter. She and he both know right from wrong. She aided this man in hurting, harming her child, murdering her child, harming her other children. She knows better. He knows better. They both know right from wrong. Gloria Williams is a vile piece of work. And I don't care what happened to her as a child. I don't care what happened to Coulter as a child. The point is, when you become an adult, you have to act like an adult. And I do know that it is hard for some people to maintain as adults because they're carrying old wounds. I won't doubt that Gloria was probably abused as a child, neglected as a child. So she doesn't have the empathy for humans. She's sick, psychopath alongside Mr. Coulter. So that's why I said you have to ask yourselves, how were these two raised? Two different individuals, a black woman and a white man, come together, evenly yoked in mayhem and foolishness. But they took the ride, and they took it together, willingly and knowingly. They both took the ride, and her children paid the cost. By the grace of God, these children are in foster care. We will pray for their livelihood, their mental stability, because we don't want to hear a harrowing story of the children being abused in foster care, because somebody has to take care of these children now. Amen. Hello, everybody in the chat. And we also have to pray that the children can stay together. Now, one grandmother's come forward to say she wants her grandchild, but my thing is, where were you when this child was being abused? You knew something was wrong. So now all of a sudden, now that we got a dead child and kids in foster care, now we want to come forward and say we want one of the children. No, you should have been wanting the child beforehand. And I think it's time that once a parent has come up before for any type of abuse allegation and it's founded, they should not be allowed to have children anymore. I think they need to be legally snipped. Once you have been accused and found guilty of abuse, neglect, murder of a child, you should be legally snipped of your private parts. That should be a law. Hello, Terry. How you doing? Hi, Sherry. She and he and others should be snipped. You're a child molester. You've been found for molesting a child. You should be snipped. Woman, same thing. You abuse your child, molested your child. You allow somebody to hurt your child on any type of form or fashion. All of you should be snipped of your private parts. So whether the law lets you out of prison today, tomorrow, 15 years from now, 40 years from now, you can't do nothing with nothing. Because this is a horrendous case. You know, it's bad enough for the children to be abused, neglected, but to have a dead body lie in an apartment, you can't logically explain that. Like I said, people are abused every day, physically, mentally, sexually. But you've never heard of a body lying out in view for a year. And nobody went into this apartment to see what the fuck was going on and where the smell was coming from. And I just find it strange. You're living across the hall from somebody and you don't even realize what's going on. Every day you're opening and closing your own apartment door and you know where the smell is coming from. You don't say to yourself, okay, this management, she's not doing anything. He's not doing anything. Okay, I'll call the owner. They're not doing anything. Hell, let me call the police and say, hey, I think there's somebody dead in apartment G, apartment A, apartment 102 or 302, 304. There's somebody dead in there. That's how you handle business. Fuck management. Fuck the person across the hall. I'm going to call the police and let the police go to the door. Ting! Come on with it. Because see, then the police would have went to the management and said, we're standing outside of the door of apartment 305 and we smell death in there. We need you to open the door. That'd be the end of the story. That would be the end of the story. No more Gloria Williams stories. No more stories of abused children. No more stories of dead children lying in an apartment for a whole year. First time you smelled death, you should have called the police and he or she would have banged on the door. And then when they couldn't get an answer, they would have went to management and management would have had no choice but to go in there to do a welfare check. And that's when the dead body would have been discovered and the conditions of the apartment plus the children would have been discovered. And then they would have went hunting down Gloria and Mr. Coulter if they were not there. Yes, don't accept no. Follow through. So now I have to ask myself, what is the mindset of the people who lived in the building and across the hall? You mean to tell me you settled for living in an apartment building with death right at your doorstep? You kept going about your daily lives, smelling death, flies coming up through the drains, paying these people rent, and smelling death. So besides the children succumbing to the madness, besides one dead person in there, which was a child, besides the two nut jobs that also stayed in there with the dead body and the children being beat up, squalor apartment, you also lived in the same building and you settled for less than as a tenant. So what was your exchange in the end? To explain to the public why you continued to pay rent in an apartment with a dead fucking body across the hall and in the same damn entry that you stayed in. Now you put that on paper because I ain't getting ready to stay in no building with no dead ass body. First thing I'm going to tell you is I'm getting ready to find me somewhere to go. Since you don't want to do nothing because something ain't right up in this building, there's something dead up in here. Prayers to the children. Prayers for a safe journey in life, that they get the help that they need. Mental, physical, love, understanding, conversation, camaraderie. Amen. Justice for the children and the dead baby, little Kendrick. The children had a vile mother and boyfriend in tow, and one lost their life because of this foolishness and buffoonery and mishap and atrociousness and inhumanity towards human. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. I want to thank you all for joining me. I will be back on later. I'm going to take a break here, but I will be bringing you more information from stories that I've covered on The Wire. I would like to bring you a story of American crime, and I want to thank you all for joining me. It's just been daunting doing these stories. I've had just about enough of talking about all this death and mayhem pertaining to children. I got a notification yesterday of a very horrific death of a child. I just refuse to talk about another kid because it's just, I don't want to keep talking about dead babies. I can't do it. But I want to thank you all for following the content, sharing the content. God bless all of you. Stay safe. I will be back on a little bit later with possibly 2 more lives for the evening. And I'm going to pray for the family of Amaud Aubry. I want to pray for the justice of those people who died in Kenosha, the Rittenhouse case. If you see something, say something. Sometimes you also got to know your own place in life and getting involved in things. Sometimes it's best to bow out. Just say, I'm not going to be a part of this. I don't think this is the right fit for me. This don't look kosher. I'm going to stay out of the way. Prayers for the victims in the Astro World tragedy this weekend. As I stated in that commentary, Mr. Scott will be refunding all ticket sales that were to the event in Vegas on this upcoming weekend. And naturally, there's probably going to be some terrible fallouts of people suing Mr. Scott for that tragic event that took place on the weekend in Houston, Texas. And those were the Said Lives I did. The Astro World event, I did a live on that earlier. This information here pertaining to the McMichael's case and Mr. Roddy, and the death of Amaud Aubry, Rittenhouse, and also bail has been hiked up for Miss Gloria Williams at $1.5 million. I will be back on with 2 more lives this evening. I want to thank you all for joining me. Please stay safe. And as I said, if you see something, say something. Yes, it is beyond belief. And yes, they need to be snipped. Yes, anytime, Terry. Thank you all so much for joining me. You all stay safe out there. What a day. Houston, I feel sorry for Houston right now. They're getting it bad right now with this Gloria Williams case and the children left in the apartment and the dead baby. And now Astro World. This is just terrible for this city. But I thank you all for joining me and watching the content and listening. God bless all of you. I'll be on a little later. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Be safe, everybody. Thank you.